Aquarius, reading the Zodiac like a book, part 11, Aquarius. It's an air sign, right? You knew that. It's a fixed air sign, and it's a sign whose symbol has a mechanical thing, has an artifact, has an item, has this container from which we disperse the water, right? And a person. So it's a human sign and an object sign. So it's a little, what's going on here? What were these people intuiting when they came up with all these stories? And this is what they were intuiting. What's going on here? They had a thought, a rational thought, and I think therefore I am moment, which we know from Aries. So Aries and Aquarius, they understand one another. The Aquarius might think the Aries is a little materialistic, and the Aries might think the Aquarius is a little, weird with concepts and their conceptions. But they get along really well because they just need a single thought, and they think the thought against itself, and they get entire doctrines, entire conceptions of bureaucracy. They talk with one another and they say, oh, if we write this regulation, we tweak this, we cancel that, and we make this, and then we can make a plan to take over the world and dominate the individuality of everyone. Happens. It's worst when it happens to people. But let's look at this again. Okay, reset. Aquarius is the airy earth. Earth is artifacts. Artifacts meaning anything material, right? So you could say the entire universe, material universe, is an artifact. That's an artifact. It's got a weight. It's real. It's concrete. Somebody can learn from this thing. People are special. They can learn from things. So it has to do with artifacts, and it has to do with logic. So it makes everything from, badly translated instruction manuals to the highest prose explaining the most obscure things that man has the capability of writing. From reading that there's just inspiration all over the place, and this refinement of intellect in regard to the concept, the intent, the archetype being described, the domination and mastery, the mental, the egoic, the group, the human size, mastery of spiritual forces, eternal life. And I get myself in a huff with these people, because there's a very unusual thing happening here, and that is that fire is the lightest of the four elements, right? We had said, whoa, earth, ocean thing, air, atmosphere above the ocean, and the solar plasma or energy or fire, right? What's the weight of a fire, right? Does fire have a weight? Is fire too subtle to have a weight? Does plasma have a weight? What does it weigh? How heavy can it get compared to air? If plasma is burning nothing, compared to air, or does it get heavier? No, it doesn't get heavier. Air, as we know it, the atmospherics here. Remember, the aspiration with astrology is nothing if not to explain life on Earth and how we function by adaptation to physical reality. This is metaphysics. This is not crazy talk. We're attempting to, what we're doing here is we're reading hardcore, measurable reality in a qualitative way using alchemical language. So by that score, this is all a very sane procedure, and we find that fire, being lighter than air, is oppressed. There's these two things that are heavier than fire, air times air, not measuring in the sense of measuring a longer distance, but saying, okay, you think in this direction, you think in that direction, and we create an area and we wrap up this fire. We encircle it from all sides. The squares are always areas. There's no hint of multiplication, of addition or subtraction here. So this is the dominance of logic over intuition. And this is the dominance, Leo, is the dominance of individuality over rules. You know, vary your shades of gray on what I say, and come up with your own understanding by reading whatever best texts you have about the sign of Aquarius and the curious thinking process and what they're thinking about and how they're structuring their lives in order to attain their own kind of immortality here on earth, because this is the sign of the original fallen angels. It's the only asymmetry in this thing. Right? Everything is, you know, alchemically regular. But this is where the knot, this is the thing that makes the knot a knot that makes this irreducible. If you take an artifact like this, there is no reason to say, well, this is just a bunch of triangles with funny writings on them, right? And I can represent, well, cool, I can represent all these triangles logically, this wasn't planned. And flatten it out and say, well, everything else is a special incarnation of air. This is the state of the world. This is how we think today. We think, yeah, well, there are some deeper layers, but there are like layers deep, and logic and facts. Not thinking. Logic and facts. They make it up, right? But this is a collapse of what the sincere philosophers of the past, before they invented hair splitting, sophistry, before people got kicked out of the temple for sophistry. We should have that again. So anyway, this is reducible. An algebraic net, an algebraic net is not reducible. So just as this projection of the zodiac onto the tetrahedron isn't reducible, it's not symmetric, and you can't just fold it up and make it go away. The algebra naturally has a volume. It's kind of weird, but true. The knots do, even though you might make them zero-dimensional, they're still crosses and overlaps, so it's not really zero-dimensional. It's also stable. We'll talk about rings and interlocking rings and stuff like that another time. Capricorn, no. Aquarius, air over water, air over fire. Okay. The individual refining their individual mind, developing reason over perhaps unstructured impulses is a positive spin. As a more highly evolved type of Aquarius. Like a good fallen angel. So, there you go. Take that and read your stuff about Aquarius. And maybe you'll learn something about astrology in the process. Thank you.